Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Rally Towel Sports, Thursday night edition. I'll be probably spending majority of the evening talking about the finals, which there's a lot to discuss. We've got Game 3 recap, Game 4 predictions, and then we'll just see where the night takes us, chat.
Beautiful.
But God bless America. It is great to have Aaron back on here. I don't know when the last time him and I were on, and I know it's been a minute for him and Todd. So,
it definitely has.
It's like a little
Todd's got internet.
reunion.
I got internet, baby. I'm rocking and rolling. I'm shucking and jiving. I'm testing internet speed rates every chance I get, just to make sure.
Just an ego check.
Just to make sure that this dream is actually a reality, boys. That's what it is.
Are you still streaming off of the same setup? Because it looks much clearer.
Yeah.
It's that ridiculous internet speeds.
It's that outrageous upload rate.
Just wait until he gets like a quality webcam that he can. I mean,
I'm just using the one that's built into my laptop, so I'll always look like the worst one here. It's all right.
This is a Mac, boys. This
is a Mac. How dare you?
It's top of the line. Top of the line. Oh shit! It is great. It has been. I believe it has been 7 weeks since the three of us have been on a show together.
That sounds
freaking insane.
Wrong, but I believe you.
Yeah,
well, like that. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but I guess that probably checks out.
Oh gosh, it's good. It's so good. It's good to be here with all my boys.
Yeah. So prior to the show, the first thing that Todd had mentioned when he saw Aaron was that he looked like Jack Harlow with that old school Cavs hat on. And then this thing all snowballed into a conversation about his new meal at KFC. That's legitimate. And so what is this meal at KFC? I need to know what it is.
Also, you guys see Tig back there?
Yeah, dude, he's been out and about.
Tig's in full action. So, Aaron, if you're not aware, Tig is the world's most expensive free cat that's ever existed.
Correct.
Got it.
So, showed up at my doorstep 17 houses ago that I lived in. Has moved with me since 2014, which is
wow.
I believe this
8
is my
years.
fifth,
yeah,
this is my fifth move in 8 years. So somewhere in that ballpark. This guy has had 2 trips to MedVet. One of them requiring a $6,000 surgery.
Wow,
$6,000
surgery.
I don't think you ever told me the actual price.
It was he had very similar to Hank Hill. He had a narrow urethra, which caused him to get feline kidney stones, which is basically like little crystals that they get in their pee hole.
Right.
And he got them twice in a year, and they're like, we gotta chop his dick off. We gotta cut his dick
as
off.
they do.
As they do. Turns out that to anesthetize a cat and chop their dick off is $3,800. And a stay at Casa de Medvet is about $425 a night. And they kept him for 2 nights because he's also a bleeder. He bleeds a lot. He's a thin-blooded cat.
Oh, man.
And he
doesn't have a dick, dude.
Right. He has no dick.
Dick don't work. I'm just as you're saying the world's most expensive free cat, I'm just imagining like one time he has to be like hella vacked out of somewhere. This little cat carrier just
That's basically what it was when we took him, because the closest MedVet when the second time it happened was like 20 miles away. And I just like the bodyguard had Tig and just wrapped him up and took him to the car and held him the whole way to this MedVet. I'm like, don't you die on me, you son of a bitch.
Don't you dare, you son of a bitch.
We have a cat, and my fiance's before I even met her, and I joke because we've rescued a dog together, and I'm like, this one is my stepson, and I do not love him the same.
Mary used to say the same thing about Tig.
Yeah,
because she came into the picture after Tig, and she used to call him, he's the redheaded stepchild, but now he loves her more than he loves me, and I've done nothing but provide him unconditional love. So fuck me, right? Whatever.
That's the same thing we have, because I basically I'm not a cat person, so I really don't pay much attention to the cats. And my fiance is always like, oh, love on me. And then the cat's like, this is too much. I'm going to go lay on his chest because he hates it. The cats know. Cats know. I don't actually hate the cat, but I certainly play it up.
Right. This guy doesn't want me to touch him. I'm going to lay all over him.
That's why I pick his ass up when I'm over there.
He's
my whole goal is just to make him angry.
So we're almost 6.5 in. We've gone over Jack Harlow and cats.
Yeah.
No sports. And I think we should just keep it that way.
Okay. All right.
Rally Towel Sports, pop culture podcast.
Exactly.
Things have completely changed.
We're versatile humans.
Changed overnight. But no, obviously, game 3 was last night at home. Celtics, I think they won, was it 116-100? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah, Todd, Aaron. Well, we'll start with you, Aaron. Give us your thoughts. Game 3.
Man, I think as a whole, this has just been a great series so far. And I think we've seen in the last couple rounds, there's been a lot of blowouts, and game 2 certainly, trended that way. We've seen Golden State just be completely unstoppable in the third quarter, where I think they're outscoring them by like 60 points or something like that in the third quarter alone. Last night was just a great game. The Celtics really put themselves in such a great position by stealing home court in game 1 and really just immediately flipping the script on, how this series is supposed to go. There's the old saying that a series doesn't start until, you lose on your home court. And we got that in game 1. So it's been just an absolutely banging series from the beginning. I know we have a nice, fun little group chat, and I keep talking about how important it was for the Celtics to win that game 1, getting a terrible performance from Tatum. And it was terrible scoring. He still, affected the game in a lot of different ways, but he just couldn't get his bucket to fall. Mm-hmm. And since that game, he's just been ice cold. And I'm sorry, he's been cold out there, like in a good way. And I just realized how that sounded.
Yeah, I was like,
no, I'm sorry. He's just been.
He meant it in the Outcast way. Of
what's
cooler
exactly.
Than being cool.
What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, anyways, it's in my opinion, it's been an absolutely fantastic series. As a Cavs fan, it's been interesting to watch this version of the Warriors because, like last night, for instance, I kept seeing Clay just miss these shots that I'm just so accustomed to see. I'm like, yep, that's in. This one's unstoppable. So to me, it's been a really good series. The Celtics are they're playing better as a whole, in my opinion. It's kind of like a who's going to do it tonight. We've seen Robert Williams have some moments, Marcus Smart have some moments, Brown, Tatum, everybody. It's been really great. Horford has had a solid impact in game 1. Game 2, he was, vanished. And, last night was an interesting game as well. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. But from my perspective, it's just been, this is what you want out of the finals. 2 teams that I don't know who's going to win walking into it. And I'm not surprised when either of them does.
Sure. Todd.
This reminds me a lot of bubble series, Lakers Heat. I mean, that series was electric.
Corey, thank you for liking the video. Our fourth wheel, who's obviously a little bit under the influence. The Celtics are going to win.
It's the Cleatox.
The Cleatox. The Cleatox. Okay. I didn't know if that was a typo.
It's the Cleatox. Yeah, I agree with Aaron. It's been very fun to watch. But really both sides. It's been very interesting to watch Klay Thompson. I mean, you said he's struggled. He's missing some shots that he consistently misses. He actually heated up last night. Game 3 is his best performance by a long shot. I mean, if you look at him in games 1 and 2, he's less than 20% from the floor. He's right around 20% from the floor. Last night he hit a couple of threes where I was like, oh shit, everything just clicked for him. Like he had that moment in the second quarter where he hit like 3 or 4 threes in a row. And I was like, this is it. This is Klay coming back. And then he just really slowed down. The statistic that really sticks out to me, and I think it's a factor in Boston having so much success in game 3 is sheerly just offensive rebounds. I mean, it was 16-5 in Boston's favor in offensive rebounds. And, you know, the story traditionally goes, you grab an offensive board, you're following it up with a bucket, right? And
Right.
Boston wins by 16. It's 11 rebounds. Let's call that 8 of those 11 times that they out-rebounded Golden State on the offensive side of the ball, they scored. There's your game right there, right? So it's very, very clear that they found Golden State's chink in their armor, which is attacking the basket without the ball. And Golden State doesn't do that well because they rely so much on everybody just being sure-handed. And I can't reiterate enough, I'm happy that Draymond Green is getting picked on. I love it. I think it's great
He
that
got abused last night.
he's getting bullied. And he deservedly should, right? He's been bullying people for a long time. And Boston's it's like the kid that's 12 and he's built like a 16-year-old and everybody else hasn't hit puberty yet, and he's 5'6" and everybody else is 5 feet tall. Guess what? Everybody's 5'10" and he's still 5'6", and everybody's beating the shit out of him. And it's great. I love watching him foul out. I don't give a shit if his wife's all pissed off about Boston fans saying "fuck you, Draymond" as he walks off the floor. He deserves that.
He's
On himself. He's the villain. He likes being the villain. So guess what? You get treated like the villain if you're not on your home court.
Right.
And it's going to be the same tomorrow night in Game 4. He's going to get a lot of the same treatment. He's going to get attacked with the ball to force him to foul. Because when he gets into that second or third foul in the first half, he is non-existent in the second half. Because the thing that he does really well is he's able to kind of turn on these jets in the second half to be the bully, as I him that, and swing momentum. And once he gets in foul trouble, he doesn't get to swing momentum, and that said a lot. I mean, outside of Golden State just consistently winning third quarters, as Aaron said, for whatever reason I believe they shot through the first 3 games. They've shot like almost 70% from the floor in the third quarter. That's outrageous.
It's insane. Absolutely insane.
67 or 68% in the third quarter. That's a dumb stat, but like that's nuts.
Right. Mafia Sports Report. If you guys are not following that page on YouTube, go check him out.
Tommy
coming in with a comment. The Celtics are hustling more on the boards. They're also playing more physical than the Warriors. It's wearing the Warriors out late in these games. I would completely agree with that comment. And I would even, go back to the predictions that Todd and I made on Tuesday for what was going to be important in last night's game. And the one thing that stuck out to me that Todd said was Marcus Smart needs to be on the floor more than 35 minutes. He played 39 minutes last night. Absolutely.
He's got to be out there.
He's got to be on the floor. And I'll tell you who surprised me the most last night for Boston is Robert Williams. That dude is a force in the paint. He's not going to give you a crazy stat line, but man, that dude just pushes people around. He is physical. He's going to make you earn your bucket, when you come into the paint. And I just love the way that guy's playing his game right now. It's not flashy. He just goes out there and gets it done. That was like my big shot.
It's very different from today's game of basketball. The physicality that he plays with is unique because a lot of times that physicality turns into foul trouble very quickly. And he's such a mismatch for Golden State, right? Not offensively. I don't mean offensively at all. I mean defensively. He is such a mismatch for Golden State because there's nobody that they can throw out on the floor that has the size and physicality, right? Draymond has the physicality. He has the ability. Kevin Looney does not have that ability. He's not a super physical guy. He's a guy that's out there to basically cover 5 to 12 feet outside of the paint, right? He's not good underneath the basket. And Robert Williams just does it. He does it very, very well. And I like that you alluded to the fact that he's an integral part of Boston being so successful because he had like 8 rebounds last night. And I think of those 8, 5 were offensive rebounds. Like
he had 10 boards last night. He had 8 points, 10 boards.
He had more rebounds and 5 points. He had 5 offensive rebounds of those 10 rebounds. Like that's crucial, right? That's a guy that gets the ball back and then you get to relax. You get to take Golden State out of their element, which is they need to be running the floor. They need to be keeping the game at their pace. You slow them down and you keep them on your side of the floor for a full shot clock. You're taking them right out of their element for at least let's call it 4 minutes of the game. So
Yeah.
I love a guy that doesn't pad the stat line, but you watch him and you're like, this guy's a complete difference maker right now.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Rob, Bruce, thanks for liking the videos, guys. Aaron, you had a take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Time Lord, man. He's great. He was injured coming into the playoffs, and you can kind of see him starting to get his footing a little bit. And I don't know how much regular season Celtics you guys watch, but what we got out of him last night is really what we were getting from him, like right before the All-Star break, where he was really starting to break. And he's, you know, he signed that extension with the Celtics. He's a great young player that, you know, they have a really great young core on that team, and he really fits in well because he's a guy that does not need the ball. He kind of is that, you know, the oop scorer, you know, next to the basket where, you know, someone drives and they double Tatum. Okay, we'll go over the top and here's an easy dunk. He's a good defender. And it's just the athleticism, and it really makes Golden State, you know, Golden State is at their best when they're playing Draymond at the 5 because they just get to run. He can pass out of that 5 position, kind of even run like a point from the top of the, you know, from the top of the post there. And that's where Golden State gets really, really dangerous. And it's almost Williams is athletic enough to, you know, guard on switches, and you're not going to be putting him on an island by any means, having him out there. There's a lot of guys now that are bigs that, you know, in certain playoff series, they're just like unplayable just because of the matchup that it is. And he's a guy that I think is a much more versatile defender that almost kind of switches the other way, where that's almost bad news for Golden State because they're used to pushing these bigs off the floor and forcing teams to play small with them.
Right.
He's not going out there and shooting threes or trying to do too much. He's always going to put up a respectable stat line. And he's going to provide you some, although not, I wouldn't say elite rim protection, some good rim protection. We saw it last night with the, you know, when Curry drove and he, you know, he blocked it into the 5th row. Right. He's a wonderful player for them, and it's good to see him playing what seems to be a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a Pops. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, I mean, he's not, you know, a star by any means, but he's a very, very important role player on that team. He understands his role, and he fills that position well. I think what I really did like to see last night is when Tatum had the ball at the top of the key, and they were whoever had Draymond as a, you know, guarding them, they would come set the pick for Tatum, switch off, and then he would just pick on Draymond, kind of like you alluded to. I mean, Jason Tatum made Draymond Green look terrible last night.
Draymond Green made Draymond Green look terrible last night, if we can be honest.
I love it.
I do too. I hate him, and I have a lot of reasons for it. And I was texting with some of my Cavs buddies during that game, like, is it just me, or do I remember Draymond actually hitting threes like when we were playing them? Like, you know, you couldn't just leave him wide open. He could hit them from the top, you know, from like a 35 to 36% clip. He certainly wasn't Clay. He certainly wasn't Steph. But when you had all of those guys out there, you needed to leave somebody on an island, essentially. And Draymond would always hit those open shots. And it just seems like he's fallen off an offensive clip. I still see him, you know, make good defensive plays. I still see him make really good passes too. Although last night might not be the best example. One of the things that was so frustrating to me, and I don't mean to make Twitter the, you know, end all be all of everybody's take, but after Curry got injured from Horford landing on him, to me, which wasn't a dirty play at all, it was like Golden State fans like, oh, that was dirty. And I'm like, have you seen Draymond this entire series? Like, fucking using Brown
during the playoffs,
Barca lounger, just always.
Just
always. He just
kicking people in the nuts.
It's you know what? And I understand wanting to be like Dennis Rodman, right? When you're not making an offensive contribution to the game, but it's insanely frustrating to see this guy. He's so good at almost making it look accidental, but because of his track record, I can't believe that it is. Like, he'll like take a second and then full body weight down, like next to the ball. He'll do that shit. Obviously the play I was talking about with Jaylen Brown in game 1, where I thought he was going to get ejected, or was that game 2? I think it was game 2 where I thought
Game
he was
2 is when
ejected.
when we were discussing a flagrant 2, right? We were talking
Yeah.
about or a flagrant 1 where is he going to get ejected for this foul?
I thought he should have personally, but I also understand that it's the finals. The thing that I didn't really like is what Levy, the guy, the old ref that they bring in for like calls like that and during stoppage play is like, well, you have to consider the fact that he already has a technical. So do you want to eject him for that? And I'm like, that's bullshit. Like
Yes.
that should have nothing to do with the fact that, oh, well, he's already got one. Is it a flagrant? And if it is, get him out of here.
Right.
Right.
That's the I think that's a part of professional sports, that mending of rules, right? Or creating using the circumstance to write the narrative the way that it's supposed to be written in the storyline, right? And we see that a lot in sports. There's a lot of missed penalties, or maybe some calls that go completely in the wrong direction, right? We saw it in the AFC Championship with the Bengals with T. Higgins, and I just think that there's specific. I don't know. The NBA has always had an issue with calling games the right way, in my personal opinion.
Right.
It's a 4-hour basketball game because they're calling every reach, every block, every shove. They're calling
Always
all
going
of
to
it.
the monitor. Yeah.
Yes. Or they let shit like what Draymond did last night or in game 1. They turn that into just a ticky-tack foul. Or sometimes you see a play where people get super physical, it's a no call, and you're like, what the hell? That's not at all how this game was going in the first half. So right. I think it's human nature. It's always been a situation or a circumstance for referees to make adjustments based on the speed of the game. And I think as a whole, I actually feel like that this game or the series has been very ticky tacky just in general. There's a lot of fouls on both sides of the court. You're seeing a lot of opportunities at the free throw line. You're seeing a lot of people in the single bonus in the first quarter, like that. It's funny because a lot of people compare basketball through decades, right? We compare the 2020s to the 2010s and the 10s to the thousands and the thousands in the 90s. Well, I could tell you that in the 90s, a guy like Charles Oakley that was playing for the Knicks in the 90s, he would have 4 fouls in 2 minutes because anytime you got within 5 feet of the rim, he was pushing you out, right? And slowly we've seen the game transition, and then you see some of that really good physical play that turns into a foul, and it changes the way that that teams play, right? And that's why I like Robert Williams, because I don't think that he does it. He doesn't allow he's comfortable at that 3-4 foul mark. He still plays the same game with 4 fouls. And I like that a lot about him. I like that a lot about Al Horford too. Al Horford, when he was younger, of course, he played really physical, and he used to do a lot of the same things. He'd get into foul trouble, but he would play through it. And it's just so there has to be, eventually there's going to have to be a line in the sand drawn on how they're going to officiate these games, especially the NBA finals, where that game last night, I mean, I didn't even stay awake for the whole thing. I had to record it so I could finish watching it this morning. Right. I would have been up till 12:30, and it just doesn't feel right. I feel like a change needs to be made eventually on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't finish the whole game either. I fell asleep. I mean, when it goes on that long, it kind of gets, towards the end, it gets a little tough to watch. Especially with, all the fouls, but, as far as the pace of play in that game, I thought the Warriors had a chance to mount a comeback there when they went up. I think it was 2 points in the third, off a 3 from Clay. I think they went up 84-82. And then
real quick, can we talk about the fucking 7-point play?
Yeah.
In the third quarter? I have never in my life seen that. Boston is up 9, and next thing you know, they're up 2. And real quick, for anyone who didn't watch it or who doesn't know, but Steph got fouled on a 3-point shot. So obviously that went in. They deemed it a flagrant foul because Horford got his feet down where Curry should be landing, which is a flagrant foul now, which I don't hate as a rule because I think there were a lot of players that were abusing that. So he gets 2 shots to make 1, and they keep possession. Obviously, he hits the first one, and then Otto Porter just puts up this fucking heave. And next thing you know, they get seven points out of before Boston is able to touch the ball again. I have never seen that before. I don't know that we'll ever see it again. But for it to happen in the finals and not just like a Kings Thunder game, like week 6 of the season, like I don't know that anyone's ever seen that before.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's one of those circumstances too, like where you don't realize how it happened in the moment, but then because I caught myself actually thinking about it more today because I was talking about the game with a coworker than I was yesterday. I was watching the game because he said the same thing that you did. He's like, are we not going to talk about this 7-point play that happened, the 7-point swing that happened in 0 seconds?
Right.
Because basically no time came off the clock or 24 seconds, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, yeah, holy shit, that's crazy, right? Like, how often does that happen? He's like, never. How often do you get a guy like Steph Curry making a 3, going to the free throw line because there's a flagrant foul? He's guaranteed to make free throws.
And he's got 2 shots at it too. So somehow he misses that first one. Like, the other one's going in.
Right. And then Otto Porter Jr. comes off the bench for 7 minutes last night and throws up. I mean, that was I don't know. He's just not a great shooter in general, but it just looked very forced. And then it goes in. You're like, oh shit, that was a 7-point swing.
Yeah. It was insane.
But nothing came of it, right? Really?
So this is why I truly believe that Boston can win this series. I know they're up. Obviously, they already took home court. They've already done enough to prove to us that they can win. But that right there is exactly how the Warriors always win. They just have this barrage of points. The third quarter, they're always fantastic in. We see it. It's not just this year's team that does that. They're an amazing third quarter team. They're great at halftime adjustments. They come out white hot and just start hitting from everywhere on the floor. Everyone is a threat to shoot from 3, even the Wiggins, the Porters, obviously Jordan Poole, but like the role players. And that's the type of possession that is just such a backbreaker that a team that came into the finals with 0 minutes combined of finals experience loses that game. So to me, even Al Horford, who has tons of playoff experience, has never touched the finals yet. This is just a team that, and I'm actually curious because I didn't hear your guys' predictions for the series at the beginning, but me and Corey last Wednesday went through and did that. And I begrudgingly did Warriors in 7, but I kind of copped out and said, I'm like 51-49% in the series. I truly believe the Celtics can win. Otherwise, it's going to be Celtics in 6. And I'm feeling very confident about those 2 picks. And my whole thought process was because they have 0 minutes of combined finals experience, there's not a world where I believe that the Celtics can win in 7 because they have to do that on the away court. If they're going to win it, they're going to have to do it in 6. And they've put themselves in such a good position to actually do that. Yeah.
So I also said Warriors in 7 for arguably the same reasons, right?
Yeah.
You look at it.
Well, you're a smart guy.
Thank you so much. You look at the
a lot of man wealth on here.
The wealth of playoff experience that Golden State has, and this even from the coaching side and from the front office side. Yeah. This is thousands and thousands of minutes of playoff experience on and off the floor across the board. And you think that those adjustments are going to happen. And Corey said something, and I agree with him. He said Boston's more complete. And that's 100%. We're seeing that's 100% true right now. Is Boston the better offensive team? Absolutely not. But does Boston have check off more boxes on that list than Golden State does? Yes, they do right now. Golden State doesn't have somebody to be able to defensively swing momentum. Boston has that, right? They have Marcus Smart. When you win Defensive Player of the Year, I said it on Tuesday, you are an impact player for a very, very specific reason. You are the floor general. You're taking care of business on the defensive side of the ball. I think when you look at him overall, he's done an excellent job of managing Golden State's front court. There hasn't been, other than the first quarter of game 1, there wasn't a point in time where I felt like Marcus Smart wasn't playing above average. Even in game 2 where they lost and he got into some foul trouble, when he was on the floor, he was making an impact one way or the other. And I think that if he continues to do that Celtics in 6 seems very realistic. right? I mean, I think tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow, and I'm sure we're going to talk about tomorrow, is that it's that thread in the needle that's like, if it's not perfect for Boston, like it could completely unweave the basket, right? And I could certainly see Game 4 being the shift to the other direction. But if Boston comes out and plays well and they win, you almost have to think Boston in 6, right? I don't see them taking Game 5, but they get back to Boston and they're up a game. That's
Right.
The Gardens are a tough place to get into and be on the road.
Yeah, and a 9 o'clock start, you're giving Bostonians too much time to drink. That's for sure.
Yeah. So before the series started, I picked Celtics in 6. Tuesday, I kind of elaborated into that a little bit. I did predict the Jason Tatum assist line greater than 8 assists. He had 9. So he did get everybody involved. So I was really happy about that when I saw the finished stat line this morning. But no, I think the Celtics in 6 is a pretty damn good prediction. I think they've got a lot of momentum. They're playing well. They stole one on the road. They won their first home game. I Celtics win on home court tomorrow. They're going to lose in San Francisco. What is that? Monday?
Yeah.
You got Friday, then they got 2 days travel Monday. And then they're going to close it out Thursday, a week from today, on their home court.
So what would be a very interesting storyline is if Boston does win the next game, because I think the Warriors would love to erase the blew a 3-1 lead narrative and have the opportunity to do that themselves.
Yes.
And if Boston somehow loses game 6, then it just becomes absolute nut crunch time.
Yeah. I think if this goes 7, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Warriors.
I don't think Boston has a chance if this thing goes 7. I mean, they do. Obviously, they have a chance because they're the only other team playing in it. I just mean,
it is
statistically speaking, they have a chance.
Yeah, it is a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, so it'll certainly be interesting. There's just a lot of narrative stuff that we can see play out, and there's a lot of different things. We could see the Celtics go on and win the next 2 and win the series like that, and I think that would be a surprise, but I think they're playing that well right now. And like you said, they're the much more well-rounded team. So I think it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out. But if we do get to the situation where Boston wins the next game, that was my first thought, was we're going to have that opposite 3-1 narrative, which I think will be interesting. And obviously the team with 3 wins is in the advantage, but you kind of start to choke up a little bit if you do notice yourself slipping a little.
Yeah, for sure. Well, chat, what are your thoughts? Josh, Heather, thanks for liking the video, guys, and joining us tonight. If you guys have not liked the video yet, please do so.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah. What
the hell are you doing?
It's right there. Just click the fucking button.
Looks like this.
It does. You have a perfect Facebook thumb.
Yeah, that really is. You've been working on that?
Yeah, it's called absolutely muscling back. Bud Light's 12 of them at a time.
12-ounce girls.
You're rocking the sticks, dude. You got crazy thumb dexterity.
Look at those. Look at those absolute fucking hammers.
Just meat sticks right here.
Those things are full of. There's so many snipes in there. Thousands of snipes in there.
Thousands, literally thousands upon thousands. But all right, so we've got game 4 tomorrow night. Todd, what is your prediction for tomorrow night? Who's going to be the difference maker? What's going on? What's going on tomorrow?
So the line, I'm sorry, the over under is 214.5. Okay. I'm taking over.
I would take the over too.
They hit the over last night. They didn't score very well.
They did. So I'm taking Boston. I feel good at Boston plus 12 after watching them last night. Wow. I predicted Boston plus 10 for last night's game. I was wrong. I was actually too light. I'm going to get a little heavy here. My pores get
plus 12.
Plus 12. My pores getting just a little bit heavier. And it'll probably be a little bit heavier by 9 o'clock tomorrow night after I have a couple bevies in me and I'm watching this game. But I think it's cut and dry. The playmaker for Boston is Jason Tatum. right? Jason Tatum is the guy that shifts everything and Boston's direction. He distributes the ball well in game one. He doesn't shoot well. They win. He distributes the ball poorly, but scores more in game two. They lose. He does both in game three. They win by 16.
Yep.
If he's able to do both, Boston is very, very hard to beat, especially with them outsizing Golden State. I think you're seeing a lot of size making a difference in this series where, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart on the floor simultaneously in the front court is really distracting, or it's prohibiting Golden State from playing at consistent speed because they're just bruising them, right? They're forcing Steph Curry and Clay and Jordan Poole and even Andrew Wiggins to be more physical. I mean, Andrew Wiggins played very well last night. I don't want to take anything away from him. He had a very good game. I think you could argue after Steph, he had the best game for Golden State.
He played really well.
He did, and I think that we had said that if Golden State can get guys like him involved, they have a better chance of winning. Well, they did get him involved. They had three people, or they had Steph with 31, Clay at 25, and Jordan Poole and Wiggins were around that like 14 to 19 mark, and they still lost.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. I thought that if they could get Wiggins and Poole involved at the same level or of a similar level that they do Clay and Steph, they have a very, very good chance of winning, and they just didn't do it. And so I have to lick my wounds and say that I was wrong, and I don't think that they can. I think Boston is better at stopping them from scoring in Boston rather than Golden State scoring more points, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I absolutely get it.
Boston plus 12. That's my projection.
That's crazy because the line right now is 4. I think I'm rooting for Boston in this series, even though I picked Golden State to win. And, I'm still not 100% sure how this one's going to shake out. But I think I can confidently say that I think this next game, I think the winner wins the series. I really do think this one is that important. It's either Boston goes up 3-1 or Golden State ties it and then takes home court back, right? So, again, I don't see Boston winning a game 7 on the road. So, although they're winning this series, you can't really call it a must win. I just think whoever wins this next game is going to win the series. So I'm kind of dancing around that question a little bit, but I'm kind of putting a different onus on how important, this game actually is. Boston, amazing job taking game 1, flipping the script right out of it. Golden State can come and do it right back, so this can be they can turn this into a 3-game series with 2 games at home. After this next game. I think, Todd, you make a great point. I mean, the Celtics are just a bad matchup for the Warriors. They do such a good job of defending the perimeter. And not only that, but the Celtics were so much more battle tested coming into this finals. You played the Nets with 2, really potentially Hall of Fame players, certainly one. You have the defending champion Bucks, and then you have the number 1 seed. And you're going, outside of that net series, you're going deep series to do it. The Warriors kind of got a pretty short end of this. Like they kind of not snuck in because, they're the Warriors. They're a great team. But, you play the Nuggets in round 1. You basically just have to beat Jokic. No one else on that team is even like a top 100 player in the league, really. It's the Jokic show. They had Memphis without Ja. And then you have Dallas, who kind of just came in and, did their thing against. I'm sorry, like it was basically, the Luka show again. So, it was Golden State does a good job of taking one guy out of it, but the Celtics aren't a one-man team. Obviously Tatum is the onus of that offense and of that team. The one thing I would love to see the Celtics do, though, is I keep seeing Tatum and Brown take these ridiculous 18-foot turnaround 2-pointers, and I am a huge proponent against difficult 2s. That's the worst shot in basketball. The long 2 in basketball is the worst shot you can take. And I think if Boston can kind of figure that part of it out. Now, granted they were starting to hit a couple of them, but it's just a low percentage shot. And there were a couple times last night where I think the Celtics got an offensive rebound and put a shot up early in the shot clock. Just, not the most smart shots that you can do. And again, they don't have a ton of finals experience, and they still might be able to squeak out, with this series win. But I don't think they're playing the smartest offensive basketball in this series. But their defense has just been off the charts, and this is just such a hard team to defend against, and they've done such a good job doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick question came in. Are there hooligan fanatical fans in American football and basketball like there are in Europe? In Europe, smoke flares are thrown, chairs are sometimes burned, beaten. There have been some cases of that, I think. Very few and far between. It has to be a really, really rare occasion.
So
for
here's
people to go crazy.
A championship win will do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say
for the right city.
Right.
Yes. So I would say the largest variance between American sports and European sports is city loyalty, right? And specifically in soccer or football, I'm assuming if you're asking it that way, you're probably from Europe. The loyalty that comes out of a community is tenfold of anything for any American sports fan. I don't think I've had conversations with, I got the chance to go to London, and we're sitting in a pub and I was talking to a Man U fan for damn near 30 minutes about a sport that I'm not super comfortable talking about. And all he talked about was, their fan base and the things they do, before a match and all the shit that goes on during a match. And if you go to like South America, there have been people that have died from how crazy it gets in a soccer game. So no, it just, I don't think that there's anything that matches the loyalty to soccer across the world.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's certainly, you have your fanatics. I think every fan base of every sport every team has like a little quirk, right? Like there's, whether you want to say like the Raiders in football or trying to think of another like the Yankees or Red Sox in baseball. Like it's just kind of different than the rest of the sport. And then for basketball, it doesn't really seem like it's that type of sport. The one thing though that basketball I think has on baseball or football is just the immediacy to the player. It's a much more vulnerable sport in the sense of these guys are basically just wearing jerseys. Someone might have knee pads, elbow pads, something like that on, but they're not wearing helmets. They're not wearing hats. They're not doing anything like that. And it just seems like a much more like intimate type of sport, just because I could see the 12th guy on a bench walking down the street and I know exactly who that is.
Yep.
But I don't probably know the third best player on the Rockies if he walked right past me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's a great point. That's also a great question, something that nobody has ever asked me before, and I really like that happened. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We definitely appreciate it. But yeah, so back on the preview for tomorrow. As far as let's put since you didn't really answer the question, Aaron, let's put it into perspective this way.
Okay.
If the Warriors are going to win tomorrow, who needs to step up, and what do the Warriors have to do as a collective to win tomorrow?
Draymond needs to score more than 12 points. I really think that's what it is. I think the Celtics are going to be completely happy to put 5 feet between him and the 3-point line and just basically dare him to take it. And that's what they should do, because he hasn't proven that, he can do anything offensively in this series. Steph is going to get his 25 to 35. There's no doubt about that. Maybe even more. Secondary is probably, I need to see back-to-back Clay making an instance, because even last night, like I'm looking at the box score, but I remember watching the game, like there were points where it was just like, this is kind of sad to watch. And, he kind of pulled it all together in the third quarter to make the whole look better. But he really, like, in my opinion, didn't have that great of a game. And he certainly hasn't had a good series, at least relative to like the Clay I remember. And I know he's, hasn't played basketball in like 2.5 years prior to him coming back this year.
Right.
But, watching all of those Cavs Warriors series, it's just, he went from being a top 15 guy in the league to, a role player, which is crazy to say because he was not only an amazing 3-point shooter, but he was an amazing defender as well. And he just is not that same player anymore. But it's got to be Draymond. The Celtics are going to sag off him the whole time. He's going to get his 30 minutes. So if he can do something with that time, and it might not have to be 12 points exactly, but he's going to, at the very least, if he's not doing it with the points, going to need a double-double between the rebounds and the assists. That's how the Warriors win.
Gotcha. Todd, how do the Celtics win tomorrow?
I think I've kind of already said it. I think Jason Tatum is your distributor. But I think you stick to what's been successful for you so far. You stay aggressive in the post. You continue to grab offensive rebounds. You continue to score off of turnovers. That's something Boston also has done very well in the first 2 games of the series. And their 2 wins of the series. So I just think that it's sticking to the recipe that's worked so far, right? You just have to figure out a way to maintain what you've been doing if you're Boston, which is be physical, stay as close to out of foul trouble as you can call it for the time being, right? You're still going to have some guys in the 3 or 4 foul range, whatever, but just slow Golden State down. Keep them on your side of the floor for 24 seconds and then force them into a shot on the other side of the floor, right? Because Clay does a lot of his work off of one pass, right? It's down the floor, throw it to him, shoot, bang, done. Steph, I take 3 steps over the half-court line and shoot. I'm almost automatic. So I think it's just a matter of make Boston forcing them to play their style of basketball. I think that that's really important, and they've done a great job of it so far in the series. And I think we'll see this much of the same tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things I noticed last night was the transition game. The way that both teams were able to score in transition pretty much at will. It's I think it's going to come down to, obviously this is a simple one, but who can force more turnovers and who's going to take care of the ball. Because it got a little sloppy yesterday, and there were turnovers on both sides. And there were a lot of points given up in transition by both teams. So it's really going to just come down who can clean it up. And like you said, Jason Tatum, he needs to carry that same stat line, 20 plus with 8+ dimes. I think if he can hit that number, the Celtics should have no problem running through the Warriors again. But on the other side of that, Curry, Clay, and I would even say Andrew Wiggins all need to be in the 18+ point range tomorrow night in order for them to have a chance.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I watched Jason Tatum, and we've said multiple times on in the post about how great Giannis is, and Giannis is to me is the best. Again, right. I agree with Corey. He's the best player in the NBA. I don't think there's a lot of people that would argue with that currently. No. And once Giannis went from being a good player to an elite player, when he learned how to distribute the ball and to not just be the scorer, right? There's a lot of guys that have played professional basketball that have just been the scorer. I always think of Monta Ellis. Everybody remembers Monta Ellis because he would drop 30+ a night, and that would be his stat line.
Yeah, but then he'd give up 35.
Right, exactly. Right. So Giannis was very similar in his integration into the NBA. He was slow to start. He had a hard time being a good defender. He had a hard time being a distributor, and he had a hard time kind of learning his role in the NBA. And once he figured that out, and a little bit of size and some time in the gym helped him a little bit, but he's a superstar now. And I think you're seeing Jason Tatum. He's to me, he's just slowly getting up higher and higher on that chart of being a superstar in the NBA. Right. And if they win this finals, I don't think you can argue that there's a better NBA Finals MVP than Jason Tatum. I don't think you can. I think that he's the reason that they're gonna he's the reason they win the series if they do, and I love watching it. I think that we need the NBA needs to continue funneling in fresh faces for people to admire, and
Sure.
I love that Jason Tatum is very humble in his ability to play basketball, and he gives a lot of what he attributes a lot to his game to who he grew up watching, who was Kobe, right? He's a huge Kobe fan.
Right.
He
It's a little cheesy. It's a little cheesy
it is,
for me.
It is cheesy, yes.
But that's fine.
But I think
it's fine.
But I think it's good because I think right now the narrative of, I'll bring up let's bring up Michael Bridges, right, from the Hornets. The guy's getting on Instagram live of him
Sipping
drinking lean. Right. John Morant's going on live blackout drunk, and he's not even 21 years old yet. So
LeBron's going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
These guys are just bored.
Right. So, but I think it's good to see a young athlete not fall into the social media fantasy that a lot of the young players in the NBA are falling
That's
into.
a good take. I don't think I've looked at it from that way because I don't love the cheese as much. I can get over it, but it's a little bit cringy to me sometimes, like him texting Kobe's old number, like, I got you today, like I'm going to take the picture leaning up against the ball.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. That's what it is. Or cringy is cringe as the kids are going to say.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, if that's what it takes to motivate him to, for himself to have confidence in himself to go out there and do it, I don't give a shit what you do.
Here's what you have to ask yourself. Is it cringier for him to take a picture like Kobe or to firmly believe that the earth is flat?
Does he believe that?
No, well, Kyrie Irving does, but
yeah, but one of those guys won me a championship. You know what I mean? Like, I'm much easier to let that one go.
Right.
No, I'm just saying it's a. I was just commenting that's a little cheesy. I don't really think there's anything that wrong with it. But hell, what was I saying? It was round 1 or round 2 where I said if I could bet it right now from a value perspective, I would take Tatum as MVP next year. And that has only paid dividends to this point after I've said that.
Yeah, that aged well.
Yeah, that has aged well. That is wine and not mayonnaise. You know what I mean? So and here's the thing, those lines aren't available, but from, let's say they were when I said that into where they are now, they've, gone down significantly. He'll probably be a top 5, whatever, plus in odds. Yeah. For that next year.
For sure.
We'll see, but man, he's certainly putting himself there on the big stage to say, is he a top 5 player? Probably not. It's hard to say. Like, obviously Jokic, Giannis, is Curry there? I don't know. But there's certainly the argument to be made. He's probably top 7 at the very least.
Sure. Absolutely. So Pops came in with a comment. I think it's not something we've really talked about. He said Klay hasn't built up his total mental and physical stamina back to this point. And I think that's a really interesting take. I mean, this is his first season back. When did he come back during the season? He didn't play the whole season, did he?
No,
they said before the playoffs, I think Klay, Steph, and Draymond played a combined 11 minutes together. Because it was like right when Klay came back, I think Draymond got injured. Okay. Or no, Steph got injured. Yeah, because I remember the first game Klay came back was against the Cavs. And Draymond started that game. They immediately intentionally fouled and took him out just because they wanted the ceremonious, these 3 guys on the court kind of thing. But he wasn't healthy at that point. So, he's not all the way back, but I also think he's never going to be the same player either. I think we've kind of the injury toll that he went under. I think we kind of fall into the trap of like seeing the Kevin Durant's or cross sports analogies, which I love, like the Adrian Peterson, or like when you have these like horrific injuries and then you see these guys come back in such short time and start to play at an elite level. We think that's the norm. Or you see guys like Tom Brady playing into his mid 40s. Like those are the exceptions. And I think we fall into think like, oh, he'll be back. He'll be Klay again. I don't think he will be. I think he will be a good player still. But man, that 15-19 run that he had, which was just destroying my team. He was the worst one because Steph was amazing and you couldn't give him any space, but he's still small and you could beat him up a little bit. You know what I mean? If he's going to even cross the 3-point line, I'm going to make him fucking feel it. Clay was a bigger guy. He could also defend on the other end. So when his shot wasn't going in, Steph has never been a great defender. In fact, you've seen the Celtics kind of target him on pick and rolls and do a good job doing it. That's what you're supposed to do against Steph. Clay was really kind of, in my opinion, the glue that held that team together, even though everyone would say it was Draymond, because he was the guy who put up fucking 40 points with like 11 dribbles or something in a game. Like he completely accepted his role. He completely accepts his role of, I am not the guy, but I am a fucking guy.
Right.
And it was terrifying.
Absolutely.
He was my least favorite one to go against. Also, did you see his comments about like keep it classy, Boston, like after the fuck Draymond chants, like in the press conference? Like, fuck you guys, dude. Like, Clay's also fucking cheesy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what happens when you go to Washington State. Who the hell goes to Washington State and has profound success in the NBA? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Good point.
Another question from YouTube. Soon the European Championship for national teams. The favorites are the French and the Serbian teams. Spain's no longer like they were before, and Slovenia cannot depend only on Luka Doncic. Well, the Dallas Mavericks are certainly trying to do that.
They do.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Todd.
Go ahead. Yeah, go.
So my understanding is that Slovenia still is considered, they won the last one, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they won the last Eurobasket, which was 2017, 2018, something along, I think it's every 5 years, something along those lines. But I just did some quick research to figure out how I'm going to answer this comment.
Sorry.
Turns out the Serbian team's the favorite. I'd have to do some digging. Appreciate you stopping in. But you know better than
homework. Give us some homework.
You know better. This has never been an international podcast before. So
boy, we can get better at that. We can if that's what you guys want.
Yeah.
If there's one challenge that Todd's up for, it's learning more about sports.
Yeah. I have a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't have a great knowledge of the EuroLeague, but I would definitely be interested to do some digging and see what that's about. If you have any knowledge on it, please throw it in the chat and let us know what your opinions are on it. We'll be more than happy to try to discuss it with you.
Let me make a deal with this viewer because I like making deals. I like getting down
deal or no deal.
Weeds. Next Wednesday, when we do our basketball podcast,
there's no finals game next Wednesday, right? Sorry, go ahead. I'm looking.
Thursday.
Okay, we're good. That was the only reason we were on last night.
Right, correct. So what I'm going to commit to is I'm going to study up here on Eurobasket, and I'm going to get real comfortable talking about it, and I'm just going to word vomit it all the way all over Corey and Aaron as they continue to just sometimes what they do now and stare at me and just let me get through my spiel. It's gonna go down. I'm excited for it.
I can't wait.
I know nothing about it.
I can't wait for who the fook at Ace. Like, this guy is best known for his time on the German national team.
Detlef Schrempf.
There it is.
That's funny. Hold on, I'm pulling up the YouTube account real quick.
Speaking of which, I assume since you've been, off with internet troubles, you got a complete backlog of who the fuck it is. You don't. That's okay. That's all right.
You gotta remember that when we were going through that list, I was continuously adding players over and over and over again.
Right.
But what happened when I lost internet was that I was also moving, and then added some responsibilities at my current job. So to answer your question, no, I have not been adding, but there are still. I checked going into yesterday before we decided not to do the podcast. There's still 57 names on there. I got
we might have to dip our toe in that water a little later because I'm like itching for it. I miss it so bad.
We could get into it. We could do that. We could get at least one guy on here. Let me get it queued up here.
Well, you can deal with that. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know. I mean, we've obviously gone over the finals. You know, where there's still a lot more to come. And when you do have a championship, like I know we like to do basketball Wednesday, football Thursday. I don't know if you guys want to touch in on some football. If you guys want to keep talking finals, because obviously when there's a championship round going on, that's going to take precedent. So, you know, that's going to bleed into Thursday. We were going to want to talk about that.
Right.
I don't know if anyone in the chat has anything that they want us to talk about, but where are you guys at? This is just like a fun, you know, kind of sports time. You know, I love the finals personally. So I'm always happy to talk about it, but is there any football shit we need to dive into? Cause it is Thursday.
Okay, well, here's the deal. If we're going to get into it, let's get into it.
Let's go.
What's going on?
First.
What's going on, Browns fans? Hi. Okay.
I basically just set myself up to just get shit.
You absolutely did. I was going to avoid it tonight, but now I'm going to.
No, we can talk about it.
I'm not going to shit on you. I
didn't do anything.
You did not do anything. You're absolutely right.
Deshaun Watson did.
Yeah.
Right. So here is my question to you as a humanitarian, if you will.
Okay, go ahead.
What as a Browns fan, how do you navigate all of this, right? What's your headspace? What does the future look like for you as a fan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And excluding, I'm not talking like, oh, is Deshaun Watson the face of the Browns? You're going to hate the Browns. I mean, like, how do you navigate these waters? Because as a Browns fan, let's just do a quick backtrack. This will be your. We're almost in the 30s on total quarterbacks, right? Since them coming back into the NFL.
I think that's a little overblown because since Baker, like, yeah, has there been guys since Baker that have played due to injury? Like, there's so many guys on that list that are literally just because of injury. And
so let's
you know what I mean? Like, that's fine.
So
keep going.
You've had a different starting quarterback basically every 3 years since they drafted Tim Couch, right? Let's call it the rough 3 years. So then Cleveland does everything that they're supposed to do in terms of talent development, drafting the right people, getting players in place, making the right moves for trades, et cetera, et cetera. And then last year, everything comes to the helm. It is, wide and clear the AFC North was Cleveland's to win. And then it was completely plagued with injuries, off the field stuff, and almost make it to the playoffs. But it's to the Cleveland Browns leadership team. That's an L, right? So you bring in a guy like Deshaun Watson, who on paper, you sign a quarterback like that, you're signing him to win, right? So that's why you give him the large sum of money that they did.
Right.
If you want to know where I'm at, it is like, how much easier would this have been if we got Wilson? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I get the Browns wanting to upgrade the position. I don't want to make this about Baker by any means, but let's just call it the quarterback position. If you really wanted to be that team and you have all this talent on the roster, again, all off-field stuff aside, which we will get to, players like Deshaun Watson just do not become available at the age that they are. It just doesn't happen. It's very, very unprecedented. The weird thing to me of all this stuff that has been coming out within the last week or two is how much the Texans were actually knew or were involved in. So that's going to be an interesting little wrinkle to this as well. I didn't want it to happen in the first place. This is basically exactly why. A person who does something this many times, the old saying is, I'm not sorry. When someone says they're sorry for something that they got caught for, it's because it's the first time that they got caught. It's not the first time that they did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I knew there was going to be more stuff that was going to come out from all of this. And right now, after the Real Sports thing with HBO, there's been a lot more people that are feeling comfortable to come out about it. That interview in and of itself, and I spoke about this with Corey last time we were on, there wasn't really any new information that came out from it, but it also provided a platform for people to feel more comfortable to come out with their story. As a Browns fan, as a person, I'm sickened by all of it. The only thing I'm going to give pause at here, Todd, is, you know, when you say like I'm a humanitarian, I'm a, you know, you're a bank. I'm not going to compare one to the other or anything like that, but it's not like the Bengals haven't had players on their team that are,
Sure.
you know, they're not all good people. If you're
Nope.
going to be a pro sports fan and you want to play morality police, to me, I just think that's just such a weird space to try to navigate, because we're all NFL fans, right?
Every team has had horrible humans on it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if we want to rank and compare, I just like to be like, oh, I am this much worse than you because you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I think from a Browns fan perspective, it's really, really difficult because I completely understand the human element of it, but there's a
Right.
part of me that we are just in the dog days of the NFL offseason that I think a lot of what is everyone's like, well, he's going to get suspended for 2 years. He's going to get, I really don't think that's going to happen. I think once football starts to be played, I think he's going to get I think the NFL is eventually going to come down with a punishment, which they reserve the right to increase or decrease as they see fit after that punishment is divvied out. But once that first ball gets hiked on a Thursday, it's a whole different news cycle, and
Right.
it'll get washed away.
I
And
think
that's unfortunate.
right.
But
I think the big
it's tough as a
question
Browns fan.
is who is going to be under center week 1 for the Browns.
Jacoby Brissett. Corey asked me
That's what I
this
said too.
last time we were on. They already excused Baker from training camp. He was like, well, Ian Rappaport came out with a thing about, you know, how, you know, the Browns might have Baker play. It'll be a best situation for both. He can showcase himself. It'll give the Browns. I immediately shut that down when I knew where the question was going. I said, no, not a single fucking chance. He will not play another snap for the Cleveland Browns. It won't happen. It just won't happen.
Yeah, I mean that's been my thought the entire time. If I'm him, I wouldn't personally, you know, just for the way that they treated him and handled that situation. I just wasn't a fan. Obviously, he's got some leadership issues. He's got some, he's got some personal things, you know, maturity wise that he still needs to work on. I think he's done a really nice job with it, you know, through the first couple seasons of his career, but he's still got some growing up to do. You know, personally, I'm not saying what happened to him was fair, which it wasn't. But
I think it was completely fair.
Really?
Personally, yeah. I mean, you were the number 1 overall pick, and you're not playing to that level. You are not above anything. You're an NFL player. What do we say about professional players all the time? If you don't want to do it, somebody else will do it. You know what I mean? There's always going to be somebody willing to take that job from you.
Sure.
And there's really 7 to 8 quarterbacks,
professional athletes that are waiting for you to make a mistake.
You can count them on 2 hands the amount of quarterbacks that actually deserve that treatment. Baker Mayfield was not close to that list. I mean, he's closer to fucking Sam Darnold through his career than he is Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like, he does not deserve that type of he has the ego to believe that he does. And I understand that there are a lot of quarterbacks. You want that out of your quarterback. There's so many like, remember the Joe Flacco thing when they asked him, like, who's the best quarterback in the league? And he's like, I am. And everyone was like, oh, no, but if you are an NFL starting quarterback, you need to have that confidence and self-pride to believe that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that part of it. But when you actually take a step back and look at it, Baker Mayfield was the first overall pick. And I think I mentioned this with Corey last week as well. You know, he's always been that I'm a chip on my shoulder guy. Patrick Mahomes is going to come in over me at Texas Tech. I'm going to transfer. I'm going to walk on at Oklahoma. I'm going to earn the job. That's great. You scrapped your way to be the number 1 overall pick. There is no scrapping from that point. You are who you are. You earned the right to be the number 1 overall pick. There's no underdog story getting drafted 101. There's not an underdog story to be had there. He just never lived up to being what he wanted to be. He's had success in the league. I believe he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the league. At the very least, I think he's going to have a long career. But for where the Browns wanted to be as a franchise, no.
Well,
No,
I guess my argument is outside of last season when he had, they had the whole, table stacked for him. What did he have to work with really, prior to last season?
Baker?
Yeah.
OBJ? Jarvis Landry?
Yeah.
No, prior to last season.
So, yeah, I mean, Landry we traded for Landry before we even drafted Baker. You had a great offensive line. You drafted Nick Chubb in the same draft class. You draft Denzel Ward. You already have Myles Garrett on the roster. If you're asking about like offensive skill players, there's still a good amount of guys on that roster. Technically Josh Gordon was on that roster too.
He was. Smoking too much weed.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Browns have not been like, all right, well, let's not give Baker any weapons. They certainly have. They have leaned into the fact that we have a great offensive line and great running backs, and there's no problem with that. That should make your job easier. I just think Baker is kind of just that like old style gunslinger, and there's so many times where I've seen that guy use only his arm to throw the ball and not his feet.
Yeah, it's Brett Favre, right? It's a wannabe Brett Favre situation. Yeah.
Right. And then it sails over the receiver's head and it's picked and going 40 yards down the field.
Right. Yeah. We watched that type of quarterback come and go. I throughout Baker's entire time in the NFL, I have described him to people as a Walmart version of Brett Favre.
Oh, he is.
Because he is. Version.
Yes, he is. Brett Favre was the same way, right? He comes out of Southern Miss. He has a huge chip on his shoulder because he's undersized. He's underwhelming. People don't want him. Blah, 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 blah. So he comes out and throws the most touchdowns and interceptions, right? Congratulations. And I feel like Baker almost kind of emulated that style of play. And I'm with you. I think the thing that always made me so uncomfortable about him was that I never saw him let me rephrase it. I very rarely saw him be cerebral and making the right play, right?
Yeah.
He used athleticism more often than not to make a play exist. There's a difference between being a smart quarterback and making the play come to you versus forcing a play to happen. And Baker had to force a lot of plays to happen. And fortunately, he had Nick Chubb, who, I mean,
bailed him out.
You look at this, the wealth of running back depth that exists in the NFL now, and Nick Chubb is still at the top level of those guys that could go out and I mean, you could give him the ball 40 times a game, and you'd still win 10 games, right? Because he's just that overwhelming as an offensive threat, and then you
couple that with the line, it's just it's insane.
And then you throw Kareem Hunt into the equation, and he's of less than 6 years ago, he was of the same level, if not a more elite level, and he still plays at a very high level in the NFL. And I don't know. I just, to me, as a Bengals fan, watching the things that have happened in Cleveland, and here's the thing: the woes are they're different types of woes. As a Cincinnati sports fan and a Cleveland sports fan, specifically in football. But it's, to me, like the thing I respect, and I said this on Tuesday, the thing I respect about the Cleveland sports community is that there's not a lot of waver from the fan base.
Right.
There's still going to be people, there's going to be asses in the seats on Sundays, right? And
well, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with the European soccer. Like Cleveland we are a Cleveland sports town.
Right.
And we don't root for anybody else.
Yeah, it's iron. It's an iron town, right? It's like Pittsburgh. They're iron towns. Those you're out there for every game from birth. Absolutely. And that's to me, that's the thing I respect about Cleveland sports fans is that even through look at the situation the Guardians are in right now. look at the situation that the Browns are in right now. You know, Cleveland's the Cavs are in an opportunity where there could be some upside in the next
The Cavs are at least fun.
two to 3 years. Yeah, it's fun.
Right.
They're young, they're fun, but that fan base hasn't wavered. And I will tell you, if the Bengals lose their first 2 games next year, it's a quick flip of the switch in Cincinnati. I'm telling you, we watch it happen time in and time out. I grew up in a city where I grew up in a time where I loved football, where Carson Palmer was the quarterback of the Bengals, and there were a lot of highs and there were a lot of very aggressive lows simultaneously. And I watched a fan base love Carson Palmer to hate him immediately when he retired. People hated Carson Palmer. There were thousands of people walking the streets of Cincinnati wearing Carson Palmer jerseys. And the day that he retired, it's like everybody just took off and left the guy that had, been a part of a huge development in the Marvin Lewis era. So I wanted to hear your perspective on it, because I think the Cleveland fan base has such a strong foundation that it doesn't affect the community of Cleveland, right? It doesn't affect the fan base. It more so affects the overall perspective of the Browns from the outside looking in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I get what you're saying. And everything you just said about Cincy, I love that perspective. And I was curious too, like Bobby, I haven't really seen a Steelers team that's bad, but what are Steelers fans looking like of 3 straight years of a Browns season? You know what I mean? Like, how does that fan base react to that? We've had nothing but shit, and everyone is still there. Everyone's still proud. Everyone is still, we want this to work. And the thing that sucks is it's like, you feel like you have sold your soul, and now we're like way down the river without a paddle at this point. I didn't want it from the beginning. And the funny thing is, you guys asked me a Deshaun question, and like what happens every time, I feel like it ended up turning into more of a Baker discussion. And I don't know how that happens each time, but it totally does.
It does.
No, and I wanted to challenge you guys on it, just to get some perspective on that, because I think that entire situation is very captivating personally. Just what happened to him, and obviously Deshaun Watson. Comparing Deshaun Watson and Trevor Bauer, I mean, they're both pieces of shit. I think we can just leave it there.
They're also 2 different leagues. The
2 different leagues,
much different precedent set.
Your dad is right. It is very different in the NFL 100%. Versus Major League Baseball. Yeah. I mean, it took Major League Baseball. He went through 8 separate suspensions before they did a long. Yeah, until they did a long-term suspension, and he'll appeal it, and it'll get reduced. You're talking to a guy that had I loved Trevor Bauer, and I respected Trevor Bauer a lot because I thought that he was a fan voice, and I thought
he played for both our teams, so we actually got a chance to see it up close.
Right, and he's a fucking weird guy just in general. He owns it. He's a really weird guy. He's been that way since he was in UCLA. If you go back and watch old videos of that Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer UCLA team, Trevor Bauer wore the same hat from his freshman year until he graduated, and he kept it in his car because he said if he brought it in the locker room, he would lose. He still lost, even though he left it in his car. He's just a fucking weird guy. And he's a guy that got a lot of attention because he's very vocal about anything and anything and everything that he can get a camera on him. He hates Rob Manfred. There's a lot of people
as we all do.
Right. There's a lot of people that hate Rob Manfred, so he's relatable in that sense. And then a circumstance goes down for him the way that it did, and he immediately said it, similar to Deshaun Watson. It's not true. It didn't happen that way. I have all the evidence to support it. XYZ. Now more people come out. Now the organization itself has to take a stance on it, right? But for baseball, it took 9 times to make the right decision. Whereas really you look at what's happening with this Deshaun Watson circumstance in the NFL, and Aaron's right. I mean, you could see a snap and all of a sudden we're not even talking about it anymore because we're just talking about football.
Right.
But for baseball, the difference is that we're still talking about Trevor Bauer, and he hasn't played a game since the June of 21. We're still talking about it.
Yeah. I just hate having to I just hate having to do the mental gymnastics behind it, because I'm not going to stop being a Browns fan because there's a certain player on my team.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just not
absolutely.
like I've thought, I'll be honest. I entertained the thought, and I immediately was like, well, you're going to have to change your entire personality as who you are as a human than you've been your
Sure.
entire life.
Yeah.
And there's just something about that is just like so hard. I'm like, what am I going to get rid of all the decorations in my basement that say Browns and like all the, it sucks. But the other thing too is like, again, and I've said it, like there really isn't a team that is void of like trying to take the moral high ground in NFL football is just to me a losing battle. Now there are obviously people that are much worse, but to sit there as a fan and be like, well, these people are human trash. Like it's all pretty fucking scummy if you really want to take the underbelly behind it. Look at everything that's going on in Washington. Look at all the players that have been given light suspensions for what we consider to be heinous acts. Sports provides a blanket and an umbrella for people that we would consider to be complete outcasts from society, that we would say fucking lock them up and throw away the key. Or in any other type of field of high performance, you kind of turn a blind eye to a lot of things that are shitty. And that's shitty to say, but it's kind of also like putting the mirror up and saying, yeah, I'm very not happy that he ended up being on my team. Is it going to lead to more wins at some point? It might. And I'm not going to cheer less. I'm not going to buy his jersey ever. I don't think there will ever be that point in time where I'm just completely, forgiving all of it. Right. But also at the same time, like, the Browns were amongst like 11 teams that inquired. We just happened to win the worst scratch off ticket of all time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I just, you're 110% correct. And maybe I said the humanitarian thing incorrectly. That's not how I wanted that to be perceived.
No, I know.
But it's funny because I read something that there's one team in the NFL right now that hasn't had a player arrested in the last 5 years. And that's the Chargers. That's it.
Oh,
it's the only team. Every other team has had somebody on their active roster that has been detained and charged with something over the last 5 years. So you're absolutely right. Entertainment makes a lot of people turn a blind eye. Right?
It always has.
Sports or entertainment, acting,
movie stars,
or
musicians.
Let's call it performance celebrities, what have you.
Chris Brown is still making hits.
Right. And people turn a blind eye to stuff like that. It's happened for the history of professional sports. Ty Cobb killed somebody and continued to play professional baseball. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's an extreme example, but like that's how far back this goes. It's how far back we've allowed status of athlete or celebrity to supersede morality, right? That's my point here. And I think that I respect your stance on, hey, yeah, this guy's on the team, but like on my team that I stand for, that I stand behind, but like you're not going to make the moral decision that, hey, one move that was made by an organization is going to completely change what you've done your whole life, right? Because traditionally, when you're a sports fan, you are a fan of that team or that individual, whatever,
right,
from the time that you understand what you're watching. Or
it's like saying, hey, we bought the wrong refrigerator. We got to sell the house.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't move my couch in. I can't move into this house. That's
right.
Sucks.
Oh yeah, no, we found a way. We popped the window out.
Exactly.
No, but really, I that's a great analogy. And I was gonna say, like, the thing that pisses me off though is the Jimmy Haslam part of it. The owner, like, he has always been the worst decision maker and always steps in like at the worst times. And he's the reason that we drafted Johnny Manziel. He's the reason exactly. Just he is constantly making absolutely terrible decisions. He's the reason that Hugh Jackson got another year because he felt bad for him. There's just a lot of things that, the best owner that you can have is one with deep pockets and doesn't want his fingerprints on it. You know what I mean? Because you're not a football person. You're just a billionaire. And I get it. It's your toy. It's your baby. But the best owners in sports do a really good job of delegating. And he has done just an absolutely terrible job of doing it. Right. And his stench reeks over all of this. I am 98% certain that this was just him putting his dick on the table and saying, we're doing this. And I don't really care what any of you have to say. This is my team. This is what we're doing. And that's going to screw over our GM, who has done a great job. And now everyone's going to blame him for this move. Our coach, who won Coach of the Year his rookie year during a COVID season. It's a lot to ask for these guys to basically constantly clean up your mess that you keep making. And again, there's nothing that's out there right now that says, Jimmy Haslam is the person who pressed the button, but he also is the owner, and you don't make a move like that without the complete buy-in of the ownership group. And it's just really frustrating. And basically what we did was held up a fucking red blanket outside of a China shop and invited the bull inside. Like, that's what we did. And it's just really, really frustrating as a fan, because I don't want to have these moral conversations about watching my team on Sundays, but I also don't want to discount, the plight of the victims, which is completely justifiable.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%. You're literally, you're balancing a double-edged sword, making sure you don't poke yourself. Right. That's what happens in this circumstance. So I think that, look, I think this is it's a great conversation, because this is you're outside having some beers with your friends, and somebody goes, hey man, what the fuck? Right. And that's what I love about doing this. We get the platform to just air it out. And I think that, the upside to this, of all of this, if you want to look for a silver lining in all of this, is that, you see something like this exists in the world, and you understand that you understand how negatively it impacts society and the culture of sports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're still able to find a way to kind of let the shit be the shit, and show your truth, right? Your actual truth, or what you stand for. Right. And I just think that's interesting. I love Cleveland's fan base for that specific reason. I mean, that it's a really united front across the board. And I haven't seen it waver or break. And I'm very interested to see what the next 8 to 12 months look like for Browns fans, because there's going to be continued woes, right? Here's the thing. Jacoby Brissett is not Deshaun Watson. He's not. He's a fine quarterback. He can keep you in games, but he's not going to be your X factor. You signed your X factor. Right. And, I hate to see basically the stars line up for it. I don't hate it as a Bengals fan. As a person in general, you hate to see a team do all the right things and check all the boxes and cross your T's and dot your I's, and then you throw the Hail Mary when you're up by 14 and there's still 2 minutes left. And then all of a sudden the momentum shifts, and now you're only up 7, and now you give them the ball back. That's exactly what Cleveland did. You just you shot your wad way too soon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, though, because the thing that to me has come out in the last 2 weeks that has been the most curious is how much the Texans were involved or knew, because
that made it really.
We talked about that on Tuesday. It makes it much worse.
Well, it makes it much worse. And at what point, if let's just throw pure hypotheticals out there, and Deshaun Watson never plays a down of football again, and it's found out that the Texans were heavily involved in a lot of the stuff that happened there under their watch, what happens to all those picks we gave up? Are you going to reward the team for hiding that under the blanket?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. We talked about what's going on with Washington and kind of the things that are continuing to roll downhill there with the Snyder family and eventually what's going to come of that. I have a feeling we're going to see something very soon come out of Houston that will have similar, if not worse, ramifications. I mean, look at a guy like Bill O'Brien, who at that point in time, when all this was going on, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, he was the GM and the head coach, right?
Yeah, he was.
When this happened. So he is clearly he is a part of being at fault for this. Because not only is he your on-field leadership and he's your compass in the locker room, he's also your boss, and he's also the guy that should be taking action if he catches wind of something like this. And now you can throw your blinders on and say that you didn't know anything about it was going on, and you could take that through, a committee, multiple committees and hearings, blah blah blah, yada yada. But at the end of the day, this taints his name too, right? Because he's directly involved in this one in a roundabout way. And here's the thing, Houston's not in a position where they're strong enough to be able to work through a circumstance like this. This is a franchise that's on really hard times overall. So I agree. I think to me, the Houston, what's going to come out of Houston is actually much worse than any of the rest of this, because if you are standing by for what these accusations are saying as an organization, that's a death penalty.
I would also love to read through. Obviously, we know the numbers side of it, but I would love to read through Deshaun's actual contract, because
absolutely.
If he was like, these are the only instances, and there's now more that are coming to light, do the Browns have an out in that contract of like a morality thing? We obviously, this is all grandfathered in, everything we know about, you told us about. Now, what about all the stuff that you didn't?
Right.
And I got to imagine that a team that is going to give a completely guaranteed contract at least gave them, especially with all of this going on, I got to imagine they at least gave themselves a little bit of a cushion to that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what we talked about on Tuesday. I imagine they needed to have like a CYA section, cover your ass. Because I mean, with that much guaranteed money, I mean, there's no way they're going to give somebody that much guaranteed money if, like you said, hypothetically, he never plays another down of football. You can't put your franchise in that big of a hole if you're going to guarantee $300 million without some type of CYA in there. 100%.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll cover it as it continues to develop. Chat. Obviously, it's a very fluid story. It's been some pretty good dialogue tonight, back and forth between you guys. I've enjoyed it.
And I hate to say it like this because we're completely discounting the victim aspect of it. But as a Browns fan, I just can't wait to go back to talking about X's and O's. Because like as a fan, that's what I want to do. Like, it honestly, it sucks. I just didn't want to deal with this at all. And this is why I didn't want them to make the move. There was, right after it happened where I'm like, this is my new normal. We're going to have to talk through it. I know I've mentioned it on this podcast, but the first thing I did was, donate to the Rape Crisis Center. That doesn't make me a good person. It just was the only thing I could do to make me not feel so sludgy, because I'm fully against everything that this guy is being accused of. It's disgusting. But then there's also this piece inside of me that's like, well, what the fuck else are you going to do on Sundays? This is your whole personality. You know what I mean? Like it's this disgusting moral debate. And I feel dirty. Even I'll be honest. Like I know exactly how it's going to go. Football's going to start and I'm going to watch football. And that doesn't make me a good person. I just hate that I even have to have this moral conversation with my own brain.
Sure.
Right?
It sucks. You're human, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the human mind falls back to normalcy. Always. You always go with what you're most comfortable with, and you're comfortable being a Browns fan, and that's okay. It doesn't. I understand your perspective of it, and we could
tell me I'm a good person, guys.
we could close the page after this, but it needs to be said that that Browns fans are not held accountable for being Browns fans, right?
Yeah,
I've heard
it's
that,
not your guys'
right?
fault. It's Deshaun's fault for being a piece of shit, and it's
Right.
the Browns
It's
front
ownership's
office for
fault for
bringing
doing
in a
it.
piece of shit.
Right.
I mean, that's really it. You know, you guys, there's no accountability that needs to be taken from Browns fans. You know, like I said, you know, you buy the wrong appliance doesn't mean you have to sell the house. You know what I mean? You know, and you guys didn't even buy the appliance. It was something that was basically forced.
Yeah, but what if
upon
the
you.
appliance was on fire at the store? Like,
Yeah,
you still
that's-
brought it home.
Right. At full
You didn't
retail.
bring it home. You didn't bring
Yeah.
it home. The
Yeah.
realtor, the mortgage lender brought it home.
Right. It fucking sucks, dude. It sucks. And here's the other thing too. It's not going away.
It won't. It won't.
No.
It's going to be there until he's no longer a Brown. But you know, it is what it is at this point. And
Right.
you know, we'll continue to update as you know as it progresses. But Aaron, I'm gonna hold you accountable for one thing this evening. Do you know
Okay.
what that is?
I don't actually. I'm excited though now.
You excited? You need
Yeah.
to pick who's gonna win tomorrow.
Oh,
You still haven't done that. I'm not letting you escape. I need a prediction. Todd and I got the Celtics. Who you taking?
Can I take a line instead?
No,
Can I take Warriors
No,
minus 4 or
no,
plus
you
4?
got- no. This isn't Vegas. This is
Give the man a
Rally
break. He
Towel
just,
Sports.
he just went through the fucking ringer for 40 minutes.
We just saw
Um,
this guy pour his entire heart out and have this really moral conversation with himself for a very long time, Chad. So let's get
Yeah,
some hearts in the
I-
chat for Aaron.
Curry said he's playing. I'm gonna take the Warriors.
Okay.
I'm gonna
All
take the Warriors. I think the NBA wants this to be a long series as well.
Okay.
So
Well, you did so you still believe the Warriors are going to win the series because you said whoever wins tomorrow is winning the series.
I picked Warriors in 7. I want the Celtics to win, but I also want to be right and not have Corey keep getting the picks right.
God, that's so true.
Yeah,
It
I'm
hurt
glad we're on the
every-
same. I'm glad we're on the same page on this one because I hate
March Mad-
when he wins.
March
Yeah.
Madness was fucking brutal. It was brutal for me because every game that I picked that I felt very confident on, I was wrong and he was right.
Yeah.
And then I got to come back fucking on here with my tail between my legs and be like, "Oh, you were right." Just stroking that ego.
And of
Stroking
all the
that
people
ego.
who do not need an ego boost, just Corey Chain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Oh,
there's
shit.
enough there already.
Uh,
We love you,
That's what I
Corey.
told him. I was like, my job is to bring you down because that is
Right.
beneficial to you.
I'm sitting here with a baseball bat, just hitting your knees.
Yeah.
I gotta knock you down a couple of pegs.
And you're welcome for doing it.
just love you,
Try
buddy.
to ground him a little bit more.
Don't,
He lives up in the clouds.
his
Shit,
wife's
well-
gonna watch this and she's gonna be like, "Corey, you got to rethink all of what you're doing right now because these guys fucking hate your guts."
No. No, she knows me enough. We're
Oh
good.
no, we just want to bust his balls a little bit.
Right. I haven't been. Here's the thing: I haven't been on a podcast with him for 5 weeks now.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen when we get back on together. It honestly, it might just need to be he and I, and we just talk for 3 hours because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll set that one out.
I feel like I haven't been on with you two in a while, and I feel like this has been great
Yeah, it's
conversation.
It's been
We've
magical.
had some highs, we've had some lows, we've had some Jack Harlow meal conversations.
Man, just think of where we started. We started with Jack Harlow, and we ended with some really serious morale.
Yeah, it got heavy
It's-
there for a
And,
minute.
and you want to
I'm
know
here
what's
for
really
it.
funny, Chad? Is after we were talking about Jack Harlow, he's like, "Yeah, I don't really know who he is," and I was like, "Hell, man, what's popping?" He's like, "You know what? Not much, man. What's going on with you?"
It's a true story.
It
It's a
happened.
true story.
I was sitting here.
I,
I'm sitting here in the middle, and I watched all of it go down.
It was
I'm pretty
it was
lame,
pretty
man.
funny.
You want to talk about some
No.
old Rage Against the Machine stuff? I'm all about it. And my dog's name is Morello. I don't know
Hell
Jack
yeah.
Harlow.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that dude on TikTok?
I can stop you right there. No.
No, okay. Well, there's a guy who
Maybe I have though.
He
Go ahead.
didn't. He hasn't listened. I'll send him to you because I think you'd find him really funny. Because you mentioned Rage Against the Machine. He listens to songs that he's never heard of before.
So I don't
And-
know if it's this same guy, but I've I've watched videos on YouTube, and it's usually, pardon me for saying it, but it's usually like, black guys who are
Yeah,
like,
it's the black dude with the
and they're like, we don't
the
listen to
do-rag and the red headphones.
Yeah, it's
And he's
like
just sitting there and
listening.
he's just like jamming out to it. It's like
Yeah, those are
awesome.
some of my favorite like videos. I've seen them on YouTube. I don't
Yeah.
have TikTok myself, but
Don't
I
get
also
it.
know that
Don't
I also know
download it.
that bleeds into
rabbit
every
hole.
other media
It does.
because of its clippability.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'll see my fiance just scrolling through Instagram in her bed, and I'm just like, just download TikTok because that's all you're watching. Like, just
Right.
don't act. Like, quit
Facebook
acting
even
like you're
has
not-
these things called Reels now, so they have their basically
Ugh,
own version.
I don't have
of
Facebook
TikTok.
either.
YouTube does as well. It's called short stories or shorts. They do the
Yeah.
same thing now. It's 35 to 60-second clips.
I have Twitter and Reddit, so like that's about it.
You're good. You're good though. That's enough between the two of those.
Yeah, I get all the information I need, and
Right.
I don't have to see people I know.
Oh shit. All right, chat. Well, if you guys have anything else for us, let us know quickly. We're gonna wrap it up here in a second.
Oh, I have something quickly.
Yes.
I'm gonna need some who the fuck it is
Done.
if we have the time to do it.
I can give you two quick rapid fires that I think both of you guys will know.
Okay.
Rip it.
All right. Former Stanford Cardinal. Played in the NBA.
Josh Childress.
God damn it. Yeah.
Wow.
Shit.
I missed it. I missed it.
Too easy.
God. That must have been an easy one. All right.
Well, I mean, who else played for Stanford?
John
That was.
Collins.
I mean, he was so good in college. I think he was on the cover of whatever the basketball video game was at the time, and he flamed out and played out in Europe forever. I think he was on the
In
Hawks.
Greece. Yeah, he was in the Hawks. He was the first American-born player to receive a multi-million-dollar contract in Europe for professional basketball.
Interesting. He wasn't. I remember he wasn't like terrible in the NBA, but he never lived up to what he was supposed to be.
He scored 30 a night in Stanford and 10 a night in Atlanta. And he just never transitioned well. I was also, if you wanted to know, I was going to say he was known for his beautiful afro because the man had the most beautiful afro in the history of time.
Well,
It was definitely.
I'm glad I got to it before then. That was.
Yeah, that was good. Good for you. Proud of you. Look,
Here comes the hard one now. He's gonna.
Tig's even happy for you.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right. So, former Kentucky Wildcat, played in the mid 2000s, left-handed mid-range.
Tayshaun Prince.
God damn it! Yes.
Wow.
Come on.
All right.
I got to do.
As soon as you said UK Wildcat mid 2000s, it was Tayshaun Prince.
All right, hold on. Let me look in here.
Hey Aaron, can we do like a little?
Wait.
Other way. Hold on here. We'll just hide Todd real quick so we can do a high five. Boom.
That's pretty good.
First.
Thanks for telling me other way. I'm like, I don't understand. Do I have to bend this way now? Fucking idiot.
All right. Here's one for you boys.
Okay.
Put Todd back in there.
Thank you so much. That's why I like to be sandwiched.
Mm.
So this gentleman, drafted by the New Jersey Nets out of the University of Syracuse, or is it Syracuse University?
I don't know.
I think it's Syracuse University.
I think it's University of Syracuse.
Either way,
no, Syracuse University because SU. Yeah.
So he played for Syracuse.
Okay.
Was a top 3 overall pick to the New Jersey Nets in the early 90s. Probably more known for he was known for his early years in the NBA, specifically with the Nets. He spent some time with the Sixers and also the Hornets, but did retire as a Detroit Piston.
Can we get a position, or would that give it away?
He's a big man.
Big man.
What was the drafted year? You said 90s?
He was the first pick overall in 1990.
First overall.
First overall pick in 1990. And he was the rookie of the year in 1991.
Oh, fuck. Kittles?
Kerry
It's not
Kittles?
Kerry Kittles. Good guess though.
The name Harris is ranked. I'm trying. It's not. I don't think it's that.
He's a big
Big.
Stromile Swift.
Oh, what a great
You
name
love
drop.
Stromile Swift.
Did I say
great
that last
name
time?
drop.
Or I always
You've
mix
said it
him up in
before.
Oluwakandy and Swift. I always mix up.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
Oh.
I know it's not. Yeah.
So he finished
Did-
with the Pistons. What year did he retire?
2005.
Wait,
Best years were what he. So he played.
2005, and he got
Yeah.
drafted in 1990.
Mhm.
So it's a
14
15-year
years.
career.
15-year
big.
career. Best known for his time with the Nets and the Sixers. Spent a little time with the Hornets in the late 90s, early 2000s.
It's not Elton Brand, is it?
It is not Elton Brand.
No.
'Cause no, he was no. I'm.
He got drafted by the
Sixers.
Clippers.
I was thinking Clippers. Sorry.
All right, give me 1 second here. Nets.
Chat, you guys can chime in at any point in time too if you think you know the answer. Man,
What was the other team you said that wasn't the Nets and the Sixers?
Sixers and the Hornets.
the Hornets.
I don't have it.
It is Derek Coleman.
See, even that's not. I can't even put a face to that.
So if you
I know the
played-
name. I just can't.
if you played NBA Jam at any point in time in your life, you would play with him and Kendall Gill when they were both on the Nets together. Because Kendall Gill was the shooter and Derek Coleman could dunk and he could block a lot of shots. And if you guys are wondering, this is how the psyche starts for me to put names down. I think about video games like NBA Hang Time, NBA Jam, etc., NBA Live, and I go back in the archives and I think about guys that I used to play with that I really liked. And Derek Coleman was one of them. I used to like playing with the Nets with Derek Coleman and Kendall Gill. I enjoyed that.
Hell yeah. Fair enough.
Can I throw one out there? I want to see if you guys can get.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this is a player who played 14 seasons in the NBA. He was told by his agent during his draft workout to pop his shirt off and work out without his shirt to display his muscular physique. He went to Duke. He played most of his career with the Clippers, but you would probably know him best with either the Warriors or the Bobcats. He's a small forward. He was technically originally drafted by the Seattle Supersonics.
Is it Corey Maggette?
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
Well done.
I didn't know the agent thing. Here's the thing about Corey Maggette that I'm sure you remember too, because he was a part of the inaugural Bobcats.
Yes, that's why I said, although that was like later in his career, I feel like that's like when I came online of being like a basketball fan.
He was an inaugural Bobcat.
Yeah.
Great.
I think he was in that expansion draft, I think, right?
He was. Yeah. He was excellent with the Warriors, by the way. Because he was on the Warriors the same time dude from Michigan State. Jason Richardson.
Yeah. Yes.
They played together. Both flying way above the rim. Great name drop there. I actually, so I believe before you came on, I actually used that on Corey. That might have even been the first in the post podcast.
Was it really?
Yeah, Corey Maggette.
I'm sorry. I should know better.
No, it's good. That just tells me that your depth of knowledge of basketball players is
I mean, I got Josh Childress off the rip. I think he played 4 years in the
Right.
Yeah, all I said was he went to Stanford in the early. Stanford. Josh Childress. That's it.
That was a good one, though. That was a good one.
Thank you.
The Coleman one threw me off. I don't
Yeah, that's a
Even
good
now,
one.
I looked him up and I was like, he just doesn't look familiar to me. I don't know.
He's
All right,
For a 15-year vet, that's surprising to me.
I've got one for you guys.
Okay.
I mean, I figure I got to throw my hat in the ring here.
yeah,
little
well,
bit.
no, it's tuck-in time. I'm getting
All right.
tired.
Yeah.
Last one. We'll go to bed.
It's tuck-in time.
The 18th pick in the 2000 NBA draft. He was drafted by the Clippers. He played 13 seasons with 6 different teams: Clippers, Suns, Knicks, Heat, Magic. Probably say most notable for his time as a Knick. Went to DePaul University. Guard.
DePaul guard. Where? So I'm sorry. Can you run through those teams one more time?
So Clippers,
Yeah.
Suns, Knicks, Heat, Magic.
Clippers, Suns, Heat, Knicks, Magic. 2000. Most known for the Knicks.
I would say he's most well known as a Knick.
Ooh, see, I actually think Clippers.
You think so?
I think so. I'll use my hand motions after
Give me
Aaron
one.
guesses here.
Give me a second here.
Todd knows the answer.
It's the DePaul thing. It's a very obscure team, and it's
That's why I was almost afraid to give you the college code or the college, because that's just a dead giveaway for you.
Yeah, because
I don't have it. Like, I can probably throw a guess out, but I don't.
all right. So let me give you a hint. So when
Okay.
he played for the Clippers, he played with Darius Miles. Remember Darius Miles?
Yeah.
So they used to. They did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Darius might have played on the Cavs, and it's not Ricky Davis because I know he's on the
Not Ricky
Cavs. So,
Davis.
well, no, I know it's not. So I always remember them doing.
Yeah,
Shooting
this is
guard,
Darius
small
Miles' thing.
forward.
Yeah. I don't got it. You're gonna tell me.
Quentin Richardson.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that was their thing. So
I knew I wasn't going to beat Todd one-on-one, but I would have been so happy if I did.
The Clippers were an abomination in the 2000s, which I'm sure all three of us remember that. But watching those guys together was super fun because they just shot at will. And Darius Miles could actually shoot a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in the movie A Perfect Score. I don't know if you guys remember that.
He was. I don't
Classic.
know why. For a long time, I got Darius Miles and DeJuan Wagner confused. I have they're two very different styles of player, but for whatever reason, I think of them both in like your colorway Cavs. I think of them both in those uniforms. But the only thing about DeJuan Wagner is like he scored 100 points in a high school game, gets drafted in the first round, and then absolutely laid turds all over the city of Cleveland.
When I see this, the first person I would think of is Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Ziggy. Ooh, that's a good one too. Man, that guy had a good career. By the time he retired, he could barely walk.
Well, it's amazing he had the career that he did because when a big man, especially in that time, has a foot injury earlier in their career, it's over. And he somehow like reinvented himself, and he was great Cav. And then when LeBron came around, it was pick and roll, pick and pop, Big Z. He was our second best player during the entire LeBron years, and then he followed him to Miami the last year.
Yeah, because Verja wasn't on the Cavs roster. He was. That was the end of Ziggy's career, though, right? By the time they had drafted Verja.
So the entire first run of LeBron on the Cavs, Big Z was there the whole time. Verja came in like 05, so like 2 years after. They were both there. They were all three there together.
For some reason, my timeline of Anderson Varejao is very skewed because I think that he just retired like 2 years ago, but I know that's not true.
I think he did. Well, he signed like a 10-day contract with the Cavs and like retired as a Cav, and like they played him a couple games. I think it was the bubble year, but like before COVID even happened. They were just like, hey, come on down to the stadium and watch This guy's fucking hair. Like
Beautiful head
Yeah.
of hair though. That Brazilian hair was magical.
Wild Thing. That was our
Yeah.
guy, man.
Those Brazilian curls were very nice.
So good.
He was
He was the
an
king of the
animal.
charge. He took
He was
all the charges in the
He
world.
did.
It was amazing.
He was an animal.
He
under
was the classic I love this guy in my team, and when he's not, I fucking hate this guy.
right.
Yeah.
Because he was also a good shit talker, and he had a strong court presence, and he was the guy like Robert Williams for Boston. He swayed games because of his ability to
Oh yeah.
Be
be physical and challenge people. when they
Fun
got in the
fact
post.
about Anderson Varejao, 1-for-1 in his career from the 3-point line. He hit a game-winning 3 against the Magic in a regular season game that also happened to be LeBron James's birthday. And I think
That's
LeBron
sad.
was the one who assisted it to him. Yeah.
Really?
I watched that game. Actually, this is I know we got to wrap up, but I remember, so it was like my girlfriend in high school, and she got annoyed at me because I was like watching the basketball game while we were like out to dinner. And I'm like, no, you're fine. Like, I'll stop watching. And it was that game.
And
We
you're
also went to a
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
sports bar for dinner. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Not gonna not watch.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, we didn't last.
It didn't work out. You found a Mary though, so you're in a good
Yeah,
spot.
exactly. Thank God.
Hell
Gotta get
yeah.
you a Mary.
All right, chat. We're gonna wrap it up there. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We 10 reactions. A little quiet on the comments, which is okay. Means that we had a lot to talk about and discuss, and you guys kind of let us do our thing and stuck around, and we appreciate it. Hope everybody has a wonderful evening. We'll be back on Tuesday. We will have 2 games to discuss, Game 4 and Game 5. So we'll be bringing that to you live on Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. And we will see you guys then.
Hacking.